Hey guys, it's Uncle Doug coming to you again from the basement of one of the ministry houses here in Liberty, Missouri. Doing another in the series of people you need to know, names that you probably didn't learn in your denomination, but are good voices saying good things. Now, as with everybody, we don't have to agree 100% with everybody on everything. You chew the meat and spit out the bones, but this is someone that has been a benefit to me. There's lots and lots of material of his available, especially on sermonindex.com and at his ministry website. He passed away a few years ago. His name is Art Katz, K-A-T-Z. Was a apostle, technically. Really typically described himself as a prophet, but an apostle is going to walk in a prophetic role a lot of times, but was very much an establisher and starter of new things. Had a community that's still there, I think in Minnesota, called Beth Israel, and they are managing all of his materials and books and whatever, and trying to keep his legacy out there and available to people. And this video is an interview of him on 100 Huntley Street, telling about how God hunted him down, harpooned him, and pulled him onto the boat, and using sincere Christians that were unlike any other people he'd ever met. God willing, we are. Anyway, this video I'm including here mainly as just an introduction to Art Katz. He was an atheist, a college professor, well-educated Jew, who saw the breakdown of the Berlin Wall and a lot of stuff that socialism, communism, other things just kind of failing around, and went on a journey of sort of discovery, backpacking around Europe, and God hunted him. And his first book was actually his journal of the process of what happened, and it's not a story about what happened, it's a story as it's happening. Following that, he wrote a ton of stuff, did lots of videos, many years of ministry, and he has a large vocabulary, speaks in complicated ways, but is one that I've thoroughly enjoyed and has made a lot of sense. One of his real hot buttons, one of his real points of his message was that in the end times, the Jews are going to find themselves at the end of their rope, and the Christians are going to have an opportunity then to really show them the love of Christ, help rescue them, help feed them, help them find a place of safety, and will be a big part of bringing in that last harvest among the Jews. So I think a lot of his ministry was about preparing the hearts of the Christians to be ready for that, to reach out to the Jews at the end of their rope that are ready finally to hear about Jesus, as he was in his place. Anyway, so I include this video because it's a beautiful testimony, but it is a very small part. That is to say, this is not the only thing I want you to hear from him. I'm including something from some of these people to wet your whistle, to get your appetite going, so that you will go search them out and find the other things the Lord leads you to of theirs that are of value and will help grow you up. I don't mind sending you to other channels and to other ministries that will grow you, for fear that you won't send money or that you'll be more loyal to them, I don't care. I just want you to grow up. And these were people that were valuable to me, and I believe will be valuable to you, to whatever degree. So I want you to know that they're out there. People ask me all the time, who do I listen to? And this is, I've done book reviews. I'll go back and highlight some of those again, and bring them back up into the people you need to know kind of category here. But anyway, so that's it for now. So here's introducing Art Katz. God bless his people that are out there that are still keeping his message alive. And I hope you understand my heart and my intent in getting this out there is simply to drive people to your resource of his information. There's lots on the internet, sermonindex.com, artkatzministries.com, or .org, I forget which one it is, but it's on the video all over the place. So as you may be benefited by this, I offer it humbly from my experience. God bless.
The book is the actual journal that I carried 38 years ago as the hitchhiking, disillusioned, cynical, ex-Marxist, atheist Jew. I had come to a place of disillusionment as a teacher, an idealist, as we Jews often are. My ideologies and philosophies had collapsed, my humanist assumptions. I put a pack on my back. I took a year's leave of absence from the teaching profession, traveling through Europe and the Middle East, seeking to find some philosophical stone that had been left unturned, but instead found that there was a God searching for me. So this is a remarkable book because it's not a retrospective book of a man looking back and remembering. It's the actual day-by-day account of an atheist being apprehended by God. So it's remarkable in its candor and reality. And
where do you start on all those days? Can you pick a day and start somewhere with that story?
There's some remarkable episodes of being picked up off the side of the road as a hitchhiker. It's something for a proud man to be dependent on those who will take him up unto themselves in his utter dependency. Traveling for 14 months, I had no alternative but to travel at the bottom of the line. It's something to stand by the side of the road and waiting for someone to stop. At a man who was 34, coming on to 35, and a man did stop for me one day. I'd been standing in the drizzle and rain for about 3 hours in Switzerland, watching cars whiz by. I thought, well, so much for my assumption about human brotherhood and mankind, and people just looking the other way as if you're non-existent. But a man did stop for me with a brand new car, and my suspicions were aroused when he got out of the car to greet me. Most people would just beckon you to come on. I thought, what's in it for him? Certainly I'm not a comely piece of baggage. And he greeted me and took my filthy, wet rucksack and threw it in the backseat of his car without any awareness of what it was doing to his upholstery. He had me to sit on the front seat. And off we drove as if I were doing him the favor, and I was the exalted guest. And he turned and he looked at me. I was well past the youth and past the tourist season. He said, why are you traveling like this? I said, I'm a modern man whose life is broken at its foundations. I'm seeking for the deepest answers of life. And before I could finish, and I said, and I'm Jewish. I said, now why did I add that? That surely will turn him off. And I looked cautiously to see his face, and the man was beaming, as if the fact that I was a Jew was of uttermost significance and a joy for him. And he insisted that we stop for refreshments at his expense. And it's one of those golden moments that come perhaps once in a man's life where something transcends ordinary conversation. This man had a capacity to draw my heart out remarkably, and I found myself sharing with him the deepest turmoil of my heart, not as a life that had failed, but as a life that had been preeminently successful. But in my success was my failure. I'd come to the end of the line. I was disillusioned about mankind. Ideologies had failed me. A marriage to a German woman had collapsed. My idealism and my assumption about human goodwill and intelligence had collapsed, and I had nothing to offer my students but raise questions I myself could not answer. And so I'm pouring out my soul to this Gentile stranger, wondering why I was sharing with him some of the deepest secrets of my life I'd not shared with wife, mother, personal friends. And he just had that capacity. And finally, I just spit it all out. There was nothing more to say. I had come to the very end of myself. And I looked at this man. I thought, what is he going to say to me? I've been an ex-Marxist. I'm a university graduate, well-read, traveled, nothing new under the sun. And he said to me in a quiet and an assured voice, Art, said, all of this, of course, is in German. Do you know what it is that the world needs? I thought, well, this man knows how to ask the questions. I'm dying for what the world needs. And we Jews have been the architect of a world that is dying and collapsing. We have been in the forefront of ideology and thought and speculation. Double dare you to tell me. I had my arms folded over my chest with a kind of a defiant expression, waiting to hear what he could say, what new ideology or thought could issue from him that I had not myself sampled or sought. And he said in his quiet voice, Artie said, what the world needs is for men to wash one another's feet. And when I heard that, David, there's no way to explain or to describe the explosive impact of those words in my heart. I continue to sit seemingly unaffected, but my human spirit had fallen out of my body and was whimpering and weeping on the floor. Because something pierced through. I was the idealist and the ideologist looking for some way to solve the problems of the world, but I had never thought about humility. I had never thought about a spirit of humility, of washing one another's feet. And immediately, it was like a eureka that broke up out of my heart. That's it. We don't need ideologies. What have these ideologies obtained for us but greater rivers of blood and misfortune? And I had a vision of the arrogant Art Katzes, the self-assumed saviors of the world, humbling themselves to wash the feet of those whom they were opposing. As a school teacher, it would have been the administrators. As white, it would be black. As Jews, it would be Gentiles. As Israelis, it would be Palestinians. I just visualized men who are in bitterest opposition to each other, humbling themselves to wash one another's feet. And I knew instantly that without a drop of blood being shed, the world could be changed overnight by such a spirit. But I never thought as a secular Jew in terms of spirit, let alone in terms of humility. And before I could recover from the impact of that one statement, this man was going on sharing with me the gospel of Jesus Christ in German. And I wanted to complain, to say, hey, that's not for me, that's for you guys. We have our book, you have your book. But I had no voice. I had lost my voice under the impact of that statement. And so I could not interrupt him. And he went on sharing with me the message of the cross and of the faith. And I knew that I was hearing the words of truth and life, but how to reconcile that in the name of Jesus was a conundrum that I could not resolve. When I left that man that day, I wouldn't say that I walked away, I staggered away. I lurched. I was like a drunken sailor. I was impacted. It was a once-in-a-lifetime confrontation with truth. And the remarkable thing was that it issued out of the mouth of a Gentile man who was not prepossessing in his appearance or in any way someone that one would take notice, and yet the words that he spoke were so calculated for my heart. You can't believe how many times I've been back to Switzerland, and every time I go, I'm asking for Edwin. I had his name and address in my wallet, which was pickpocketed on my first day in Egypt. We Jews always suffer misfortune when we go there. And so I had no way to find him, only to ask Christians, do you know of a man who was a bookkeeper, who works for an automobile agency, he sings in the choir, he knows about Duray, the architect, artist, he knows about Jung, the psychologist, he had a breadth of understanding and a spiritual depth. No one has ever been able to direct me to Edwin. So 38 years later, I have to ask, was that a man? Or was I picked up by an angel? And surely what he spoke was so inspired by God, who knew my heart, who knew my searching, and spoke that one thing calculated to pierce me through and open me to a message that I would have otherwise spurned. And in that condition, I went on in that journey. And day by day, virtually, God was impacting me with yet another life, picking me up, another life sharing with me, another life of these strange Gentiles that I could not dismiss as Gentiles. They were like another species, another humanity. They were not Jews, but what could I say Gentiles? There was a quality in them that I could not define, but it affected me. There was a calm, a peace, and the words that issued from them were so penetrating. Only a few days later, I met an American girl in that same Switzerland on vacation, having graduated high school. I was twice her age. She was to me the epitome of all that we Jews denigrate as WASP, white Anglo-Saxon Protestant girl with whom I should have nothing to do, but there was a certain artlessness and naivety, transparency about that girl, and she was willing to walk with me in the woods surrounding this European city, and I'm probing her motives. How is it you're being kind to me? Oh, she said, it's the love of God. How is it you're not afraid of me? I'm a forbearing, angry man. Oh, it's the love of God. Every question I asked, she would answer, it's the love of God. I thought, if this kid mentions God one more time, I'm just afraid I'm going to have to lower the boom, because my hobby was engaging Christians in debate and wiping them out. So what was this little girl to me? Sure enough, she mentioned God. I said, look, you're a sweet girl, but I can't stand this God talk. I'm a man who's dying because of the cliches of this world, whether they're ideological or Christian. So don't give me this God talk. Just answer me one question that no Christian has ever successfully been able to answer. You're talking about God. How do you know that he is? I thought, oh, a long silence, pained, awkward silence. She'll think of something from Sunday school. And I'll get my intellectual steamroller all geared up, and I'll run over her, flatten her, because what is this little snippet for me? But without a moment's hesitation, David, she looked up at me and she said, Art, she said, I know that God lives. He lives in me. And when I heard that, I went down again. I was felled again, like an ox clubbed and trying to recover. Like, what hit me? What the power of that statement? It wasn't theological, wasn't even intellectual. What gave that statement its power? I was just brought down by it. And I finally recognized that the power was its truth and that she had the face to prove it. This little snippet, this white Anglo-Saxon Protestant that I could easily have dismissed, had a quality of life and light in her that made me conscious for the first time that I was in the darkness. I was the university graduate, the teacher, the Marxist Institute, well-read, and yet this girl had a light that made me jealous. And that's how God was dealing with me, day by day by day. So the significance of this book, David, is this. It's not just the account of a single Jew, but it is a picture of what is yet future for my entire people. For I believe prophetically that we're going to see in a soon coming time Jews uprooted all over the world from their places of security and affluence, like Montreal, like Toronto, like Minneapolis, and all of the places in which we've had uninterrupted relative peace. We're going to find ourselves again haunted and pursued by a spirit of anti-Semitism in which our places of safety will no longer remain such, and we will be uprooted and find ourselves by the side of the road, dependent on those who will pick us up. And in that condition, stripped of everything, as I was 38 years ago, we will be in a position to hear a message that we have too long spurned out of the still small voice of God, spoken by those who have a mercy and a compassion to meet us in our extremity and in our need in these last days.
I began talking with Art Katz by saying it was a story that he told on 100 Huntley Street about 25 years ago. And out of some 14,000 stories, I've never forgotten that one. That's why I wanted him to say it again.
And so everything is so dependent upon what the Spirit inspires in the moment, who is able to arrest us and to put his word in our mouths, if we are in that quality of relationship with him, which is why I say that the issue of the Jew is really, in the last analysis, the issue of the church, because we Jews will be so broken, so dispirited, so emptied of any content and any ability in ourselves to save ourselves out of the last days extremity that will come, that we will be totally dependent on what comes to us from outside ourselves.